The story I am about to tell you is about a mother, a wife, a businesswoman, and a killer. Greed, lust, selfishness, witchcraft, psychopathy, insanity, you will have to decide. What motivates a young woman who seemingly has it all to murder her two husbands, her mother-in-law, and ultimately her 9-year-old precious daughter? Stay with me and we will find out together. This is the case of Anjette Lyles, who was a pillar of her community in the state of Georgia in the 1950s. Watch with me to find out what motivates a woman to become a serial killer. It is doubtful that anyone was more astonished than Anjette Donovan Lyles herself when the verdict was pronounced. Condemned to die in the electric chair for the arsenic poisoning of her young daughter, she received the judgment with composure that seemed, to some observers, almost studied. If there had been warning signs, no omen, it appears, had been sufficiently clear. Anjette was fat as a teenager and not too popular with the boys. But as she grew older, she grew prettier, and her plumpness became voluptuousness. Her dark brown eyes, her alabaster complexion, and her big personality were her best assets. The Donovan family had a poultry market on Popot Street, a broad boulevard of drugstores, bargain clothing stores, pool halls, and beer parlors. They did not move in Macomb high society, but it was an honorable enough way to earn a living. In addition, her father was a railroad man, a well-regarded and respectable calling in Georgia. It has been said that Anjette picked up her first knowledge of voodoo around that poultry market when an occasional practitioner came for a ceremonial chicken. In May 1958, the townspeople of Macomb, Georgia were stunned to hear that 32-year-old Anjette Lyles had been arrested and charged with murdering 4 persons: her 2 husbands, her mother-in-law, and her 9-year-old daughter. Anjette was indicted for having administered and causing to be administered deadly poisons, arsenic and arsenic trioxide, to the victims by artfully, deceitfully, and wickedly enticing, procuring, and causing them to swallow and take internally said deadly poisons, with the intent to kill them and thereby slaying them. Anjette's trial in October 1958 was the most publicized and talked about criminal trial in Macomb in the 20th century. This community of comfortable habits and long memory, where a person's character was generally considered a settled matter, was unprepared for such a terrifying story. On Mulberry Street, shaded and well-traveled, Mrs. Lyles conducted a restaurant which had, over time, become something of a gathering place. Professional men, attorneys, businessmen, and others were accustomed to take their meals there, lingering afterward in conversation. "Everybody loves her," one of the restaurant's cooks said at the time. "She's such a sweet person. Going to her restaurant, you didn't think about the food as much as you thought about just being welcome," one patron wrote later. "She hugged everybody's neck when they walked in the door. She would come to each table and sit down and talk. She had a personality that was terrific. It was a pleasure to go to her restaurant. You couldn't help but like her. The food was regarded as satisfactory. The company, it was generally agreed, was better." Mrs. Lyles possessed what is often described, and not always accurately, as personality. She was approachable, attentive, and inclined toward easy conversation. It was said that she did not meet strangers, only acquaintances not yet made. Such qualities served her well in business. They also, in time, served to complicate the understanding of her true personality. Her early life offered little to distinguish from that of many others. In 1947, she married Ben F. Lyles, Jr. and entered by that union into the restaurant trade. His family owned the Mulberry Street restaurant and had for 20 years. Daughter Marcia was born in 1948, and another daughter, Carla, 2 years later. When Ben died in 1952, people felt sorry for Anjette, a 27-year-old widow with 2 children to support. Ben had recently sold the restaurant on an impulse and spent his time drinking whiskey and gambling, Anjette said. She worked for 2 years in another Macomb restaurant, learning the business, and then borrowed $12,000 to buy the old Lyles Cafe back. She'd begun her climb. It was a considerable amount for a young woman to be able to borrow. It also was a heavy debt that was going to hang over her head. In due course, she married again. On the very first day of running her new business, she met him. Her second husband, Joe Neil Gabbert, was an aviator. The marriage was brief. Within 6 months, he was dead. Accounts of his final illness were not easily reconciled with ordinary explanations. There was mention of a full-body rash, of agitation, of a decline that was as rapid as it was distressing. Yet, no formal accusation followed. The matter was allowed to rest. Some years later, Mrs. Julia Lyles, the mother of her first husband, and at times a member of her household, also died. By then, Mrs. Lyles had endured a succession of bereavements that might have taxed the composure of any individual. Public sentiment remained, if anything, sympathetic. It is possible at that point the pattern might still have gone unremarked. Anjette moved into a new house. She was the popular proprietor, the hostess with the mostest on Mulberry Street, and a center of male attention at club bars. It was the death of her daughter, however, that altered the course of events. The child, Marcia, aged 9, had been regarded as well cared for. She attended church, sang in the choir, was properly dressed, and gave no outward sign of neglect. When she fell ill, the response was immediate and generous. There were visits, inquiries, and in time condolences. When she died, the sense of tragedy was widely shared. There had been, it later emerged, a letter, written without a signature by a woman employed in Mrs. Lyles' establishment. It suggested in cautious terms that the child might be in danger. Also, on occasion, employees of Anjette's restaurant heard Anjette respond to her daughter's annoying behavior by screaming at her, calling her a son of a bitch, and threatening and swearing to kill her. The letter did not at the time produce decisive action. A warning only afterward did it appear to have been, perhaps, insufficiently heeded. Following the child's death, attention returned, first tentatively, then with increasing focus, to the earlier losses. It was discovered Anjette would take food and drink to the victims while they were in the hospital. But before delivering drink, Anjette would disappear into the restroom for a few minutes, taking both the drink and her purse with her. And when Anjette's daughter was in a hospital bed, crying out from hallucination-induced terror, seeing snakes and thinking bugs were crawling out of her fingers, Anjette, standing nearby, did not attempt to comfort the dying child, but instead laughed at her. Certain details, previously overlooked, acquired new significance. There were questions of substance and access, of timing, of consistency. There was also, as several witnesses observed, Mrs. Lyles' own matter of speaking. She had, it was said, a habit of referring to death in advance of its occurrence and with a degree of certainty not easily explained. 2 weeks before her suffering daughter died, at a time when doctors were telling her the girl would recover, Anjette ordered a casket for the little girl. At the trial, it also came out that Anjette was a superstitious creature obsessed with magic and the occult. She visited fortune tellers. She had roots, powders, potions, and other voodoo paraphernalia in her home. She would burn candles and talk to them, telling them what she wanted. White candles were for peace. Red candles were for love. Green candles brought luck or money, and orange candles kept people from gossiping about you. Black candles were burned when you wanted someone to die. What made her push her luck in the case of her daughter? Marcia's hospital and funeral expenses totaled $4,700, and the insurance on her life amounted to only $1,750. Anjette stood possibly to receive some of her daughter's share of Miss Julia Lyles' estate, but no fortune. There was no financial gain in the death of Marcia, unlike the husbands who had more considerable assets and life insurance. The prosecution's theory was that Marcia was an unwanted child who was in the way a little bit. Within 3 months of the death of her second husband, she had already entered into a relationship with his boss, a Mr. Franks. Miss Ingle, a nurse who cared for Marcia and her father in the hospital before their untimely deaths, testified that Anjette told her how much property Franks owned, how much insurance he had, and what his salary was. The prosecution suggested that the deaths, taken together, formed not a series of misfortunes, but a sequence. That each had occurred under circumstances which, upon examination, proved less than accidental, and that, in certain instances, there had been material advantages. The case was not built upon a single decisive fact, but upon an accumulation, each element modest in itself, but together forming a structure the jury was asked to consider. They did consider it, and in less than 2 hours they rendered their decision: guilty. The sentence, death by electrocution. It had been some years since such a penalty had been imposed, and rarer still in the case of a woman. Anjette did not put any witnesses on the stand or introduce any evidence. She did not rely on insanity defense. She vehemently denied killing anyone and protested her love for the victims. Anjette's weak defense was not strengthened by her icy demeanor at trial. When witnesses and spectators would burst into tears at various points in the trial because of poignant testimony concerning her daughter's tragic and painful death, Anjette would sit there, stone-faced, seemingly indifferent to the spectacle of other people weeping and sobbing for her dead child. In a shocking twist of events, Anjette escaped the electric chair. After the Georgia Supreme Court upheld her conviction, Anjette was examined by 6 medical professionals, including 4 psychiatrists. They were unanimous in their diagnosis. Anjette was psychotic and insane. Her mental illness is chronic paranoid schizophrenic, the doctors decided. According to one of the doctors, Anjette even experienced hallucinations, including seeing angels flying around the room. Anjette's death sentence was therefore reprieved, and she was transferred to the state mental hospital in Midgeville, where she died of heart failure at the age of 52 in December of 1977. There is one survivor in this story, Marcia's little sister Carla, who would have been 7 when her mother murdered her sister. After she was placed with family members, she largely disappeared from any public record. We can only hope she found a better life, full of the love her mother denied her, her sister, and her father. She most likely changed her name and would be about 76 years old today. So how do you feel about this story? Do you think Anjette was wrapped up in witchcraft that influenced her to do these demonic acts? Or do you think she was just really selfish and greedy? On the other hand, she could have just been psychotic and insane, like her doctor said, to help her escape the death penalty. I choose to believe it was a pretty even mix of all 3. She was dancing with the devil and used deadly poison to systematically destroy her entire family for her own personal gain, and I think she should have had her sentence carried out. Please put your thoughts in the comments and like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate each and every one of you.